Hello, I am your host. My name is Mike Bankhead. I am a bass player and songwriter from Dayton, Ohio. And on today's episode, I have the privilege to introduce you to John Crescent and Amelie Eiting together. They are 7,000 apart. That is their artist name. Very talented musicians and lovely people who I met at a music conference a few years ago. They have a lot of interesting things to say on today's podcast. You'll learn about their writing process, what they write about, why they write about what they write about, how they got started, all kind of stuff. You ready? I think you'll enjoy this one. Good afternoon, because it's afternoon for you.
Well, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Could you kindly introduce yourselves? I mean, I know you already, but the listeners do not.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Amelie.
I'm John.
And we are a pop duo called 7,000 Apart.
Where are you right now?
We are in Stockholm, Sweden right now.
That's pretty far from here.
Yeah,
That's pretty far,
decently. Yeah. About 7,000 kilometers, I would guess.
About.
Yeah, so, yeah. Pretty close, probably.
One of you is Swedish.
Yes, that's me.
Now, you don't really have too much Swedish in your English. There's not a lot of accent there.
Yeah, thank you. I've been living in the US for a while now, so it's kind of, and I never really had like a huge accent, but yeah, it kind of faded away a little bit. You can hear it sometimes, especially when I'm tired, but yeah.
So, John, how's your Swedish?
It's okay. I can understand way more than I can speak it, though. It's one of those things where like you get to the certain point with a language where you like understand pretty much everything, but like your speaking is still like, you know, a 4-year-old or something. Mm-hmm. So that's probably where I'm at right now. Yeah.
That's good. It seems from the outside looking in like a rather difficult language.
Yeah, I mean it's I think learning any language like fluently is difficult, but like, you know, I would say compared to like some other languages, it's not like as bad as like German. Like, because German is very, you know, there's all the other grammar rules.
Swedish is more tough because, like, to pronounce it, we have a lot of weird vowels and weird like mouth shapes and stuff. I would say it's more difficult because of that, less due to the words or grammar.
Yeah, it's hard to be fluent.
Yeah, and sound Swedish. Yeah.
I have been to your beautiful country once.
Really?
Yeah, I went to a little town called Lund, which is very charming.
Yeah,
Nice.
We played in Lund.
Yep.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
My favorite Swedish word, one of the 4 that I learned, is fika. Have you had fika today yet?
Not today. Well, we've had some tea this morning, but that was more breakfast. But we're definitely going to take some fika after our meetings today. Gonna go grab some coffee, maybe a little croissant, maybe a little chocolate cake. I don't know.
We'll get
That's
something.
What fika is. Yeah.
Awesome. So Amelie, since you're the native speaker,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't really have an appropriate word in English for fika for a direct one-to-one translation, but can you explain culturally what that means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like just meeting up for a coffee. Like if you say like, hey, do you want to grab a coffee or sometime? Instead of saying that, we would say, hey, do you want to fika with me sometime? You know, but fika is like, it's also part of the work culture a lot here too. Like a lot of people take a 3:00 fika where you just take a little break from your work and you go sit down with your coworkers, drink a cup of coffee. Maybe someone brought some cinnamon buns or something, especially like on Fridays. And it's just like a really, really common way to meet people, spend time with your loved ones, and take a break from everything that's going on.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I feel like over here we could learn a lot from the Swedish.
I agree.
It's pretty nice. It's definitely one of my favorite things as well.
I was going to ask you how you met, but you tell this story so many times, and you know what? You've explained it very succinctly on your website, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be like, you know, people should just go to your website and read the backstory, because one, it's a fantastically fascinating story, which is perfect for marketing.
Thank you.
And on the website, you explain it just really briefly in just one paragraph, and it's perfect. So we're not going to talk about that. We're going to move on to the next phase. You're
Okay.
actually in the middle. You're actually in the middle of your music career right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
How's that going, broadly speaking?
Broadly speaking, I would say things are what I've like always loved about what we're doing is that it's been slow, but it's always gone upwards, you know? Like we've always been growing, but we've been growing kind of slow, but that also means that we've had time to like figure out what it is that we actually want and what we want to write about and what it is that we want to stand for and tell people, and also like we've had time to like develop both as like people but also as artists and performers and all of that, and things are starting to move a little bit faster now. I would say we have more people on our team and we're working with some really, really cool people, which is helping the whole process a bit.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a grind, and we've spent like 5 years doing this, trying to be professional, like at a professional, like full-time level. So just doing this, and we've been doing that now full-time for like a year, and I think it's just been a growing and learning process, and like failing along the way, and like trying things, and things don't work, so trying new things. But yeah, it started to pick up again. I think like the whole COVID situation kind of stalled a lot of the momentum that we had built up, but like we kept going, and we just found ways of like pivoting and figuring out more things we could do during that time as well. So it's been really good overall, I would say.
For the folks that are not musicians, they might not understand just how much work it is to do this. But I've seen your tour schedule for this spring and summer. Talk about how many shows you've been playing and plan to.
Yeah.
So last year we played 93 shows.
Yeah.
So,
and this year I think we're at least, I think we just passed 93 booked shows, but I think we're like over 100 now. And that's without any sort of like press or anything else like that too. So or like releasing music or anything else, so that's just like literally going to a city and like setting up everything and performing between 1 and 4 hours.
Yeah.
I want to again, musicians are like, wow, but people who don't play might not understand the kind of work. Who books the shows for you?
It's a mix. We book a lot, but we also have some help in Wisconsin. We have a couple of booking agents in Wisconsin that helps us as well, that can help us get some of more of those like bread and butter shows. We like to call them, the ones that are like 3-4 hours at a restaurant or a bar, where we just have to show up and play for the people that they have there. We don't really have to draw like people, or we don't have to like sell tickets or anything. We just get paid to be there and play music, which is really cool. And it's a good like mix of that. And then we try to focus on more playing those bigger shows and maybe co-headlining with other people and
splitting bills and like exactly. That whole thing where we play with other artists who are doing original music.
Yeah, where it's more focused on the original music and that experience than like just having some music in the background when you're eating dinner.
Yeah.
When you're out on the road, how do you go about booking a show for a place you've never been?
So we've actually used this really, really useful website, and John has used it the most. I'm going to let him talk about it.
Yeah, there's a website called Indie on the Move, and I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like a database of most of the venues in the country, and it has kind of like lists of like capacity and like what genres they prefer and all that type of stuff. So like we've been kind of collaborating. They have a program type of thing where you can kind of get their help to send out the initial emails as well. And we've done anything from like doing all the research ourselves to using Indie on the Move. And we've just found that like it saves like 4 months of work to like have that all in one place and be able to like have one consistent place to reach out to all the venues and figure out places to play. And yeah, but it's taken a while to figure that out.
Personally, I'm impressed by how you're able to put together tours all across the Midwest pretty much on your own.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Just because
it's a lot of work.
I have an idea of, you have to email or call the venue and hopefully they get back to you, but maybe they don't. And setting that up with your planned driving route.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, there's a reason why people just farm that once they have enough money. They just pay someone to do that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as soon as I feel like the two things that are like obvious choices to give money to someone else to get their help with is like booking and driving. Like those are like the two immediate things where it's just like, take my money, because it's so much time and effort, to do both of those things. And they're big, like huge parts of the job,
Yeah. Amelie mentioned briefly building shows with other musicians in Wisconsin who want to play local music. And this is good because it reminds me of a few of your very lengthy social media posts, John, where
yeah,
you were talking about building a community, not just with the musicians, but also with the venues in your area. And the points that you were making are probably applicable to music scenes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like you to talk about that, because that's something that you're clearly passionate about, not just for the benefit of 7,000 Apart, but it feels like you want to help other musicians in your hometown and in your state.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I tend to post about it, but these are things that Amelie and I talk about all the time. And I tend to get her help like with especially editing things, but like she'll also be like, here's a bunch of other ideas. But yeah, we talk about that stuff all the time. And especially when you're in a local music scene, it's hard to get the scene going, but it's also really hard to really have it be focused on original music in local scenes. And like for us, it's always been about like a rising tide lifts all ships, because like if someone succeeds in your area and like there's some form of success within original music, it helps everyone to do better. So we really want to just kind of help other artists as well to figure out what they're doing and like to be able to grow, because that just helps the original music scene at large. I'd say for us, one of the big things is like we've realized is like setting expectations for the audience, especially, and making it like an environment that is like conducive to listening to music, and like not basically like take away as many obstacles as you can from like people being able to just focus on the music. So whether that's like having a place to sit instead of having to stand the whole time, if it's like more singer-songwritery, or like, making sure the sound is a good volume, or having an MC to like introduce the bands and hype up the audience and have them tell the audience, like, hey, these guys are awesome. They've done these, 5 really cool things, and you should like give them your attention, and please like put down your phone. It's like when you go to like a musical or something, they tell you like, don't use your phones, please, no flash photography, like don't talk. It's all about like setting expectations for the audience, I think. And when you're starting out in music, it can be hard to do that in a lot of places because people don't really understand the value of it. But as like original artists and just like musicians in general, people will get so much more from the music if they can actually hear the music. And so, especially in local scenes, it makes a really big difference to actually have that conversation and to like let the venue know, like, hey, if you do these types of things, people are going to enjoy the music more, which means they're going to want to hear more music and they're going to want to come back to your venue. The more you can help them help themselves as well, because like a lot of venue owners, they're not musicians, and even if they are, maybe they don't realize the benefit that you get from that. It makes a huge difference because then you can actually connect to the audience, and especially as artists, artists have things to say, and if they can't be heard what they're saying, then the value of it just like dramatically drops. And for musicians, I don't think like with Spotify and everything, there really isn't value in like recorded music. So like if you take away value from live music as well, there's like no value left for music, basically.
Which is heartbreaking.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like trying to help change, or not even help change the culture, but help people like understand the value of doing things a certain way, I guess, at concerts, which is hard, but I think it's worthwhile long term.
You mentioned about getting people used to being ready to listen. Part of that might be the culture in a city or region. And I say that because in my tiny city, people still look at their phones and there'll still be a lot of chatter at a show. Less if it's a quiet show. And we have a couple of performers in our town who are very strong vocalists, and they're very adept at shutting up chatter by hitting like the really long, loud, strong note where people are, it makes people stop and be like, well, that person could sing, right? I am not one of those people. I can't do that. That said, little things that venues can do, like turn your TVs off.
Yeah.
during the performance.
We have a place that we play. I won't name names, but we have a place where the stage is about the size of the projector screen behind us, and there are 2 projector screens. And
playing different things,
like sport games, while we are playing on the stage.
And then like 20 TVs in the venue as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So like we're competing with so much, and like especially the culture now where everything is moving so fast, and we're always like hit by so much content at all times, both from our phones and from TVs and things, everything around us. How are people, like, I can't even focus on the audience because there's so much, like, so many TVs. So I'll be like looking at the TVs because that's what we're kind of trained to do. And how are they going to focus on looking at us when there are like 20 TVs playing different things all around them? Like, that's just not fair. You know?
Yeah. I mean,
like whatever we do, even if I hit a really, really cool note, like it doesn't matter.
What we've kind of realized is especially as original artists, like, there's a huge value in like creating your own venues and just doing it yourself and being like, okay, here's this like area of the music market that's just like not being filled by any venues in my area. So let's just like make our own things by collaborating with businesses and just do everything ourselves and just like actually set the environment as good as we can for the original music. And I think there's a huge value in that, but it's a lot more effort and it's a lot more time consuming. But I think it helps to change the culture long term.
I think it's awesome that you have the wherewithal and the vision to try to build that on your own. It's just something I think about, and I have just the experience of my city. What if we didn't have the kind of culture where people are conditioned and used to going to shows? What if we had, as indie bands in my area, what if we had to build that ourselves instead of continuing on the legacy of something that's been built for us already 30 years ago or 40 years ago, right? I don't know that, I feel like we have a good sense of community here. I don't know that our sense of community is strong enough that we could build something like that from scratch.
I mean, a lot of people are complaining about the music scene, the original music scene in Green Bay, and people that have been in it for like 15 or 30 years, you know, and then we come and we're like, hey, let's like change stuff and let's try to do our own thing. And people are like, that's not going to work. And we're like, yes, we're going to make it work. And I think you can make a difference. And especially if you get a lot of people on board, like you can't expect to do it by yourself. But if you get involved with the community, if you get more bands like on the same bill, but you do make sure that it's still like a night that people can come to and they're not getting too overwhelmed and it's not too long, like do more of a showcase night, like where you have 4 bands that play 15 minutes each or something, and put it in a place where, like, put it in a library where people are like automatically more quiet because, you know, you're not supposed to be loud in a library, or or do it in someone's living room, or just something where you kind of take away those expectations of like, oh, this is going to be a loud night or whatever, and just set your own expectations. And for the people that are coming, make sure that they know, like put in the invitation, like, hey, this is going to be an unplugged night or whatever. So make sure that your phones are off, make sure that whatever you want to have for your expectations, I think you can communicate that. You definitely need people that are going to be okay with that, but the sooner you start like implementing things, the sooner it gets better. Like we have a music festival in Appleton, which is the city next to Green Bay, and it's an all original music festival, so you are not even allowed to do covers. And they have these little things, little
like
paper
signs, yeah.
little tiny signs on all of the tables at all the venues that say, hey, remember to keep like the chatter to a minimum, or like
art is being made, or
art is being or like music is being created, or a moment is being created or something. Remember to not be on your phone and talk after.
Be present.
Yeah, be present. Like kind of the thing, like, you know, at weddings where people are like we'd rather have you here with us than that you have like 1,000 photos on your phone. You know, it's all about just like telling people what it is that you want, because it's automatic. Like it is, at the end of the day, it's your event, and you are allowed to put some pressure on the people that show up to see you.
Yeah.
How weird is it that you have musicians complaining about the scene, but object to someone wanting to try to fix it? That strikes me as very strange.
I think it's also like they have tried and it maybe didn't go so well. And so it's hard for them to like see that trying to happen again. And maybe we won't succeed. Maybe we will fail as well. And maybe it's the next generation that really figures out how to do it. But you can't not try, you know?
I think also there's like 1,000, you know, like one ripple in a lake doesn't make a big difference, but like 1,000 ripples in a lake, that can actually start to make a difference. So it's like, it's also like people have been so broken by their local music scenes, which is why a lot of people don't do music, because they just get broken. But like, if you can get people to be inspired and be like, hey, maybe I can do this myself too, the more that you can do that, the more ripples there are, the more that the whole thing gains momentum. And then I think that's when you can actually have some sort of change. And then if you combine that with like talking to businesses, talking to like nonprofits that support music, talking to governments, I think that's when it
local
makes a big difference.
I mean, just that we have, you know, like Green Bay City pages that are willing to shout out the stuff that we do. And
there's local TV too in Wisconsin that they want to support local things that happen. So,
and if we can bring them some really, really cool events, they're going to want to promote that as well.
Yeah.
I find that inspirational, and I'm rooting for you to build something cool in Green Bay. That's
thank you.
Like,
thanks.
That's awesome. All right, so now let's go backwards. This is all that stuff you're doing it because you already know how to play and you already have songs. So let's go way, way backwards. Your first instruments and how you learned to play them for both of you, please.
For me, it was piano, and I was taught by my grandma when I was like 4 years old, because my grandpa was a pastor at church and my grandma was like involved with the music at the church. So I was kind of forced to play piano when I was like 4, and I hated it. But eventually I learned that there was more than classical music, and then I like started loving.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it was singing. My voice was my first instrument, and my mom is a voice teacher, so I would sit on the other side of the door when my mom had lessons here at her apartment, and I would sing along with the warm-ups and all that, and she would coach me when I wanted her to, and not when I didn't want her to, and just like growing up around that just taught me so much.
That's awesome. What did your childhood smell like? Hat tip to Terry Izzy Rock Barton, because that's a question he asked on his podcast.
Wait, what? Sorry, I zoned out for a second.
What did your childhood smell like?
Oh man, That's like a interesting question because like I actually have like a lot of
John is really good at remembering things from his childhood.
yeah, I don't know, like I don't really know if there's any specific smells, but I feel like it's like all the smells maybe. That's like like I'm a very like smells and like allergies and like all those things. Like I'd say my childhood smelled like allergies.
Oh, wonderful.
Let's go with that. Like
Ouch.
I think the first thing like I think about is like boiled broccoli, because we ate that like a lot, and like lingonberry jam and black pudding. That was like one of those like staples in our like house when I was little that we used to eat, which is very, very Swedish. So that I think that's what I thought about first. And just the smell of the city, I think the smell of Stockholm is really, it hits me every time I come here.
I guess the other thing for me would be like the nice part of that is like rain during springtime. I think that's definitely one of my favorites.
Well, that's because it washes all the pollen out of the air and your allergies.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
Tell me about your writing process. How does a song start for 7,000 Apart?
It depends. So there's like two main ways I would say. Like either I do a lot of writing and then Amelie and I work together after I've started a song to like really finish it. And Amelie's really great at making the song way better than like what I can do by myself. So like I'll bring her, maybe a few ideas that I'm like, I'm so excited about this. And then she'll like be like, oh yeah, this part's good. And then like, oh, but maybe we can do a different verse or something. Like there's some songs that we've completely rewritten once she's looked at it. And then I'd say the other part of the process would be like, we do a lot of co-writing now. I think it's something that we found that like, it's really nice to put on like a different hat, and like a big way for us to do that, because since we're married and since we work together, it's like, it's nice to have someone else in the room just to kind of like be like, okay, we're writing now and we're going to sit down and write together and just like finish a song. So I'd say like the co-writing has been a big experience for this new album that we've worked on. But then, yeah, just like collaborating together. Yeah, so it's different, but those are kind of the two main things. The ones that I write end up taking, a few months to like really get flushed out. But then the co-writes are like 2 hours, 3 hours, and the song is done. So it's like cooking, like slow cooking and like and like really fast cooking, I guess. But yeah.
When you decide to write, what tool do you reach for first?
I think for me, I focus a lot on lyrics. I always pull up a Word doc or like a Google Doc, and then I share that with everyone who's in the room. So I make sure that everyone can see what's being written. I think that's my first tool, is to bring up my phone or a computer.
I would say actually kind of the same for me. Like I
feel like it's a guitar for you though.
Well, I would say for me, it's more like a phone. Yeah. Like a notes app on my phone. But then
we always have the voice memos.
Voice memos probably is actually the first thing. Because normally I might have like a melody idea or something, but I don't have a piano next to me or guitar next to me. So I'll just like sing some really bad thing into the voice memo. Yeah.
Your latest single is called Hope.
Yeah, that's right.
Would you like me to drop it into the podcast so that the listeners can hear it?
Would love that.
Pain is a wave. First I'll hate, but then you won't be so terrified. I feel stranded, but know there's people on my side. These thoughts are like refugees settling in my mind. I can taste it like water on the tip of my tongue, like the first sip after an aimless desert run. My thoughts are scorching in the sun. I feel hope running in the water in my veins, a constant that's keeping me that's on your face. You wear it like it'll never go away. I never know exactly what to say. This is when it all could change. I feel hope running in the water in my veins, a constant that's keeping me sane. It lets me handle all this pain. I feel hope. I feel hope. I feel hope. Hope is your mind saying you have already seen this place. Hope is your heart saying you got it all to do what it takes. Hope is your mind saying you have already seen this place. Hope is your heart saying you got it all to do what it takes. Ooh, oh, ooh, oh, Cause I feel hope running in the water in my veins, a constant that's keeping me sane. It lets me handle all this pain. I feel hope. I feel hope. I feel hope. Hope. So pain, if you keep rolling back again, I'll welcome you this time as a friend, 'cause I know it's never gonna end.
All right, we just heard Hope. Tell me about that song.
Yeah, it's a song that means a lot to us. Throughout like our lives, we have really turned to music for emotional support, I would guess. And music has always helped us to feel our feelings. And we want to be that for other people. We want to create music that help people to feel their feelings and to make people feel a little less alone. And I think Hope is very much a testament to that. And we wrote it in the beginning of 2020, where we had no idea what was going to happen. This was in January, before anything had really started. And when we wrote it, we were in like a place where we needed that song, but we had no idea that it would mean so much to so many people in 2020, 2021, and now even into 2022. It's one of those songs that just means a lot.
Yeah. I would say the other big thing with that song is it was like the second song we worked on with our producer that we're working with now. But it was the first one that we worked with her from scratch on. And it's one that really means a lot to us in that respect too, because it's really like the first song from the new album that we're working on that's like completely with her production. And yeah, it's been a really cool experience, because like our first album was very much, we went in a studio pretty much like a total of 5 days total, and we worked with like an actual drummer an actual bass player, and that's one of those things where you do that so quickly, like it kind of turns out, but you don't have time to think about it, you just kind of like do it. And then for this project and this song especially, we really like dove into it, and we're like, okay, what do we want this to sound like? And we made proper full-on demos for it, and we just like it kind of was the first time our process changed into more of a new process that we're working in now. So I'd say it was like the first real song to change that process. And yeah, it means a lot to us lyrically and musically, I'd say too.
Do you eventually still go to the studio and record live drum and bass, or have you moved to an all in the box kind of process?
So it's pretty much in the box. We still do like my vocals and John's guitar, and there will definitely be some songs on the upcoming album that will have real bass on it.
And drum. And
potentially drums.
The thing is,
there are real drums because, well, it's our drummer that plays the drums. It's just that he plays an electric kit so that it's not real drum sounds in that way. But yeah, John can explain it.
Yeah. So I guess our process for recording now has been making scratch tracks with the full band, where we like sit together and just record the whole song from front to back. And that's pretty much the sound of our first album. Like that's pretty much what we did, except for we did each instrument separately, whereas now we just do it all at the same time, for the most part, as much as we can. And then we send that like, it's more of like a live sound to our producer, and then she like helps to turn it into something that works for a recording setting. So like maybe the drums don't work that well in like a recorded situation. Like it might work live, but in a recording situation it might not sound as good as like changing it out for something else. Or like, since we have the drums, it's called MIDI, which is basically like these things where you can like change the sounds of the drums to different sounds. And so like maybe the drum kit we chose, she's like, oh, okay, I don't like this drum kit. So I'll try this other one, and she'll send that back to us. And so it's more like nitpicking. And I'd say the other benefit of that is we can actually like sit with it. And like, if we want to change the tempo of the song or change anything, we can really do that until we find exactly what we want in a whole different way compared to the first album. So I think it just gives us a lot more flexibility. But like a lot of the songs are going to have real bass, I think, on them too, because
some of them are very, very bass driven. So we would like some real nice bass on there. And
then we have like electric guitar and acoustic guitar on the new songs as well. So those are all recorded mostly in the box, but like we use like the amps and stuff we use live are also kind of in the box because they're through something called a Helix, which is like a
I got one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got a Line 6 Helix. I forget which model. Whichever one is the one just below the most expensive model.
Nice.
Oh, but since my listeners might not know what that is, I should not have interrupted you. Continue describing the joy of the Helix.
Yeah, so it's like a digital amplifier. So basically it has all these sounds from like 50 or more amps built into it, and then like 250 pedals. So you can kind of just like, but it's all digital, but it's like a physical piece of hardware as well. So like all the sounds are digital, but the hardware is physical. So if that makes sense, I'm like trying to explain this in like audio format, but there's like, you can program each of the stomp boxes on it, like each of the pedals to something different. So if you want to pretend you have, 50 amps, you can just do that. And you don't have to carry 50 amps with you or like 250 pedals with you. So it's like, it's really amazing. And but yeah, it sounds great.
That's why I got one, and I'm really bad at it. I've only had it for like 6 weeks, and I can do like 3 things on it.
Yeah, it takes some time, I would say.
But I'm a bass player, so I'm glad you're going to have actual real bass. I feel sad when my instrument gets replaced by machines.
Oh yeah, don't worry. Our bassist is too incredible to not use for the recordings.
Awesome. Does the In Progress album have a name yet?
Yeah, it's going to be called Feel Your Feelings.
How soon till we get it?
Oof, that's a hard question. I can't really give you a date, but the plan is to release it into 2 EPs. So at least you're going to get EP 1, which is going to be called Side A. It's going to be coming sooner than the whole album. So at least you'll get something before the whole album drops.
I get it. It's Yeah, these things take time.
Yes.
So really, the way that you're building songs now, your producer is basically part of the creative team.
Oh, 100%. She is definitely, I mean, that's why we chose her too, because we love her creative side, and we've even co-written one of the songs that's going to be on the album. So she's definitely part of the team and part of the process in a very, very big way.
Feel your feelings. So on your website, it says that you do try to draw attention to awareness around mental health issues. That album title seems to dovetail very nicely with that. Why is that a direction of your writing?
I think being like a married couple, the easy way is to just write a bunch of love songs, you know, but I think because we have such a focus on helping others, and like that's really been our goal from day one. Yeah, of course you can write cute love songs that make people feel all fluttery inside, but I think also tackling some of the heavier themes like depression, anxiety, it's so important to us that we talk about what we've gone through, we've gone through a lot of that. And it's also something that has been such a stigma. And I think if we write about it and if we let people hear our side of the story around those things, can make people feel a little less alone and a little less, you know, weird for going through stuff like that. And just letting people know that there's nothing wrong with them and that we all go through hard times, and it's okay to ask for help.
I would say too, like our story seems like you could obviously be like, oh, you know, they spent 3 years apart and oh wow, they're just so in love, and like that's the main part of their story. But like those 3 years were not easy. Like I think it's very easy to just kind of glamorize it and make it seem like it was all happy ever after, but it was like a very difficult time for both of us, and we saw each other about a couple months a year, basically, for 3 years. And so I think it was like this first album that we did, I think we did a pretty good job still of talking about mental health and that too, but like there's just so many emotions that we had during that time. And also, I mean, just trying to do a music career, like there's so many other things aside from just like love songs. And we definitely have that too, but I think it's about being like honest to yourself and like being vulnerable, and like sometimes there's just certain things you want to write about. And so I'd say like we both go to therapy as well. So the title was actually something that like my therapist said back in 2019, because I was really struggling, and my therapist was like, John, you need to feel your feelings more. And it just became something where I'm like, yeah, you're right, I do. So that's kind of been the whole process for me too with writing. And then like with Amelie too, we've just, again, going to therapy, trying to work on ourselves. And I think that's a big part of relationships as well that is really missed in the market with music, is like a lot of times we talk about love songs or like talk about the physical side of love, but we don't talk about like the struggles that you have to go through both personally and together in a relationship. And so even like a healthy relationship has struggles too, you know, and I think that's something that like people really forget about. You know, they want it to just be all happy and good, and like, yeah, life is hard too. It's not just always happy and good. So.
Yeah, we just went through a pandemic, you know, like, or we're still going through it, and that has affected people's mental health hugely. And I think if we can help people just by writing some songs that kind of touch on a lot of subjects. I mean, I went into a really, really rough time. I was really depressed for over a year throughout the pandemic because my mental health couldn't really handle it. And being able to write about that and being open and vulnerable about that, we're just hoping that it can resonate with people.
I think it will.
Thanks.
Where can someone find you, Amelie and John and Amelie, if perchance they were looking for you?
Yeah, it's actually pretty simple. If you just type in 7,000 apart without any space, because we had enough space in our lives when we started 7,000 apart. So it's just 7,000 apart. If you type that into Google, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever, you will find us. We are at 7,000 apart on most platforms.
Awesome. Could I get you to come back once Feel Your Feelings is out and we can talk about that in more detail?
We would love that.
For sure.
Excellent. Thank you very much to Amelie and John for joining me. You know what? When they get back to the United States from Sweden, they have a lot of shows scheduled, dozens of them in a handful of states. Please visit their website, check their tour schedule, and if they are coming anywhere near you, why not support some hardworking, wonderful independent musicians and go watch them do what they do. They'd love to sing to you. Also, to you, dear listeners, thank you once again for joining me. Yeah, we're talking about community this week on the podcast and on socials. Come back on Friday. I think you'll like that episode as well.